In Memphis, nothing comes easy, and that's exactly how we like it. This is a city built on hustle, on heart, on grit. And at Carway, our rides are built the same way. Tough, reliable, ready for the grind. No games, no gimmicks, just Memphis-style service. Real, honest, and built on trust. Where grit meets grind, you meet your next ride. Carway, grit, grind, and Pink Beetles.
In Memphis, we don't just make memories. We make moments. A Memphis-owned brewery where great beer meets great times. Crafted right here for the city we love. Live music, game days, and events all year long. There's always something happening at Grind City Brewing. Bring your crew, bring your energy, and make every night feel like a celebration. Real beer, real Memphis.
From the Bluff City to pitches around the globe, this is the 901 Soccer Podcast with your host, Lawrence Dockery. Now, let's get to the show.
All right, folks, welcome in and welcome back to another brand new live edition of the 901 Soccer Podcast. And guys, I have got to tell you, I am so over the moon, incredibly thrilled and excited not to be doing this at 1 o'clock in the morning. It's been a long 3 weeks. I've enjoyed it tremendously, but some of the shows going as late as they, starting as late as they goodness gracious, as late as they have, and going as long as they have been have started to wear on me just a little bit. So I'm very glad that we only had one game today, and very glad that it was done while the sun was still up. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Again, I'm your host, Lawrence Dockery. You can find me on Twitter at LDoc93, 901 Soccer Podcast on Twitter at 901 Soccer Pod, Bluff City Media on Twitter at Bluff City_media. Over on Facebook, just search 901 Soccer and just search Bluff City Media, and we should pop right up. And, of course, right here on the YouTube channel, please make sure to like the video, comment on the video, and subscribe to the Bluff City Media YouTube channel. So, we have for you today one game to talk about. We've got Canada beating South Africa 1-0 in LA in the first game of the knockout rounds, I should say. I guess we'll just dive right into it. Now, before we talk about the actual game, I do have a small confession to make. The second half was an incredibly exciting, very intense, very back and forth type of game that was very, very enjoyable. But my confession is I slept through the first half. I was not available to watch the first half. I got back, and I was last night at the game in Atlanta between Congo and Uzbekistan, which going into that day, I would not have expected to be the better of the two games between that game and then Colombia and Portugal in Miami. You can go back and check out an episode we did right here on the 901 Soccer Podcast where we ranked our top 10 group stage games to watch at this World Cup. And Colombia-Portugal was number one with a bullet. And not only, it failed to deliver. It was, I'm actually glad I didn't watch it. Because as amazing as the atmosphere looked and as amazing as the Colombian fans looked, it was 0-0. And there was maybe a goal line clearance here or there, but by and large, that game was a tremendous disappointment. Fortunately, I was in the press box at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta to cover Congo and Uzbekistan, which before the tournament, you would not have expected to deliver much in terms of entertainment value, quality soccer, or important soccer as far as, knockout rounds are concerned. But it delivered on all three. There were a lot of Congo fans in there, similar to not quite as many as there were Haiti fans for the previous game. It's still the best fan showing I've seen of any country at this World Cup in the games that I've covered was the Haiti fans against Morocco. But the game delivered, the fans delivered. Uzbekistan scores early. Fantastic goal, I might add. Probably one of the goals of the tournament, if we're being completely and totally honest with ourselves. Goal of the tournament there from Uzbekistan. Congo comes back in the second half and gets 3. Incredible game. And Congo goes into the knockout rounds. It's for the first time in their history. That's absolutely incredible. That's kind of been a theme at this World Cup, is some of the countries that you weren't expecting very much out of have more than delivered, and Congo being one of them. So I'm guessing there was a lot of celebration in the Congo locker room last night, because it took them quite a minute to bring us their coach after the game was over into the press conference. So that delayed my departure from the stadium. And then 2.5 to 3 hours after the game is over, the train station and every single train was still packed full, like something out of like a Seinfeld episode where everybody just kind of squished in like this. That was what the platform was like at the station by the stadium. And then every train that I got on to get all the way out to where I was staying with my brother, it was staggering. 3 hours after the game was over, just how many people were still in the platform area, getting on the trains, getting off the trains. It was Thunderdome. I almost said the Bizarro World, but that's not the Bizarro World. That was Thunderdome, and it was just so I get back very, 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 very late to my brother's apartment, end up getting to bed at about 2:00 in the morning, and only to turn around and get up at 6:00 this morning for the 6-hour drive home. So I got home probably 11:00 in the morning, threw my stuff in the washer, took a shower, went to bed. That's what I did. So I missed the first half of the Canada-South Africa game. So if you're looking to me for insight and or analysis of the first half of Canada-South Africa, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to provide it to you because I slept through it. I'm not going to apologize for sleeping through it because I was in desperate need of sleeping through it. But I did make it up in time for the second half, and the second half of that game was a very entertaining game, very back and forth. I'm going to agree with what Peter Schmeichel said in the post game on Fox, that it looked like South Africa was set up to just absorb all the pressure and then find something on the counter. That's what it looked like. And it looked like Canada had it set up to go, we're going to go out and we're going to try to win this game. And that, based on the one South Africa game that I've covered in Atlanta against Czechia, that tracks, because South Africa set up to absorb a lot of pressure, and the Czechs for the first 10 minutes of the game were carving them up like a turkey on Thanksgiving. And for whatever reason, after those first 10 minutes, the Czechs decided they didn't feel like doing that anymore and just started trying to play keep away, I guess. And they ended up being punished by the South Africans. They got a late penalty and tied the game. Now, in that post game, Hugo Bruce, the South Africa coach, got on my nerves because he was complaining about the stadium. Okay, why? It's a fantastic stadium, but it's not a football stadium. It's not a soccer stadium. Erroneous. It actually is 100% a soccer stadium because there's a Major League Soccer team that calls it home 17 to 20 times a year. Copa America has been played there. The Club World Cup has been played there. And now the World Cup has been played there. And for some reason, it's not a soccer stadium. I didn't understand that. So that kind of miffed me. And I'm not even, on the ground or tied in or emotionally attached to anything related to Atlanta soccer. That just miffed me. That miffed me as an American. Because, read between the lines, or maybe I'm putting words in his mouth. I don't know. But he seemed like one of the people who didn't think the World Cup should be in the U.S. Because I guess, there's only 3 countries in the world that are allowed to host a World Cup, I guess. I don't know. So that kind of miffed me. But when I did actually ask him a question about his team's game plan, every so often I get a little wood on the ball and know what I'm talking about. And, I was like, hey, it looks like you guys, your game plan was to shoot everything from way outside and see what happened. Is that just the way the Czechs were defending you, or is that was that the game plan? It's like, yeah, that was the game plan. We knew they were going to be tough to break down, so I told my guys, if you have a half a yard of space, shoot the ball. Hell yeah, shoot the ball. I love this guy now. I don't care what he said about Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I don't care what you said about Mercedes-Benz Stadium now, because you and I are kindred spirits in that. Shoot the ball from outside of the box. That being said, I think they took that to extremes. You guys know how much I hated the Greg Berhalter school of thought of you're not allowed to shoot and everything has to be a tap in from inside the 6-yard box. You got to walk the ball under the goal. I hated that. It wasn't winning soccer. It wasn't attractive soccer, and it wasn't smart. So like any positive connotation that you could attach to it could not be attached to it, because it was just awful. That being said, the entirety of your offensive game plan cannot be just shooting the ball from outside the box. Much though I did appreciate him saying, yeah, if you got the shot, take it. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky. So that was enjoyable to have what my eyes were telling me confirmed by the man who put it out there. But again, that was them kind of trying to sit back and absorb a lot of pressure. And, Czechia didn't really put them under a lot of pressure until, after the first 10 minutes of the game. So you get to today's game against Canada. And Canada, South Africa, by getting to this game, has already made history. It's their first time in the knockout round. Canada, by getting to this game, has already made history. It was their first knockout round. This is only Canada's third World Cup ever. 1986, 2022, and 2026. Right? So they'd had played before this tournament that Canada had played 6 World Cup games. They, I believe, had lost all 6 of them. They certainly had not won one. I don't remember what they did in 86. I was not yet born. But they get a draw in their opener against Bosnia. They move from Toronto to Vancouver. They play Qatar and absolutely cut their throats open, which is fantastic because nobody deserves it more than the Qataris, especially after they broke the Canadian dude's leg. And then they lost to Switzerland. And so they still get through. They still advance into the knockout rounds as the second place team in the group. But the bummer in all of that is they don't get any more home games. Had they topped the group, they would be playing, let's see, where is Switzerland? I was prepared today. I do have the bracket pulled up. They would be playing on July 2nd against Algeria in Vancouver. And should they have won that game, they would have played on July 7th against the winner of Colombia and Ghana, again in Vancouver. But because they finished as the runners-up of the group, they moved to L.A., and now that they've beaten South Africa, they'll play in Houston. Had they gotten to the quarterfinals, they would not have had any home games anyway. Everything from the quarterfinals on is here in the United States. That was one of the big selling points when the bid was put forth and successfully won. So Canada, by winning the game today, as it looked like they were going to, like they did look like they were the better team for most of the day. They went out there and tried to win. Yes, as Herm Edwards says, you play to win the game. Indeed, Canada went out there and played to win the game. Now, again, our old pal Jesse Marsh. Jesse, I'm going to need you to take a chill pill or 3 and, realize what's going on. Understand it's not a penalty. The defender got the ball first. I didn't watch it live. I saw the clip. It's not a penalty. Shut up. Stop crying. I'm begging you. Stop. Enough. I'm sure somehow in the post game he will blame this on U.S. Soccer not hiring him. Jesse, that's not a penalty. Sorry. Yes, indeed. Mr. Timu, Jeremy Renner. Indeed. When the movie comes out, we'll get Jeremy Renner to play Jesse Marsh. We'll get Russell Crowe to play Mauricio Pochettino. It's not a penalty. And you're in a World Cup knockout round game. This isn't the third place game in the Nations League. You do not need to be showing your ass running out into the center circle when the referee blows for halftime, trying to fight a dude and trying to get yourself sent off. It would have been really, really, really funny if he had been sent off because, again, this is a World Cup knockout round game. This is not the third place game of the Nations League. Sack it up and deal with it. Not a penalty. And even if it was a penalty, you didn't get it. Move on. Quit crying. Your team looked the much more likely team to score today anyway. Just roll with it. And I don't understand why he's always trying to fight people. What are you trying to prove? You've already done more with the Canadian national team than anybody has ever done ever. Even the guy you took over from, John Herdman, who got Canada back to the World Cup in 2022 after they hadn't been since 1986. So I don't understand why he's so mad and trying to fight everybody all the time. It's like Morgan Freeman said in Glory, "You're so full of hate, you just want to go out and fight everybody." Not that Jesse Marsh, is Denzel Washington or anything like that, but it's just I need you to relax, man. Can you do that for me? You went to a Copa America semifinal. You're into the World Cup round of 16. You've won a World Cup game for your country for the team that you're coaching for the first time ever. You're into the knockout rounds for the first time ever, and now you've won a knockout round game for the first time ever. Now they got to play Morocco or the Netherlands. And I saw Morocco play in person in Atlanta against Haiti. That's a really good team. Morocco's really, really good. And guys, I've told you, I wrote about it. I think I've said it on here. I don't know what they're doing in Morocco right now, but whatever they're doing soccer-wise, everything they've touched has turned to gold. It's astounding. Morocco went to the semifinals at the World Cup in 22. Pretty good. Bronze medalist at the Paris Olympics in 2024. That's pretty good. U20 World Cup champions. That's pretty good. They went to the African Cup of Nations final in Morocco this year, and technically they're the champions because it was awarded to them because the Senegal players just left. On the field, they did not win the Africa Cup of Nations in the final. Off the field, it was awarded to them. I don't know how you want to what's the word that I'm looking for? Ascribe. How you want to ascribe? I don't know. How you want to chalk all that up. In the end, they were the hosts. They went to the final, and it was awarded to them, though they did not win it on the field. But also now into the knockout rounds at another World Cup and unbeaten in the group stage. Very impressive. Like everything that Morocco's doing is turning to gold. So, that's going to be a tall task for Canada. I mean, they've already made history. So at this point, they might just be playing free and loose because they're playing with house money, because not only did they make the knockout round for the first time in team history, but they won a knockout round game for the first time in team history. And you think Jesse Marsh has wanted to fight people before? Wait till he goes up against the Moroccans, and they're a very physical team, and he's going to be ready. He's going to be, he might bring a knife to the gunfight. So all in all, Canada has I think met what their expectations before the tournament were, or what they should have been. Granted, I'm not on the ground in Canada. I have no idea what their expectations were. From the outside, this is about as good as you could have hoped for Canada, I think. Now they got to play either the Morocco, like I said, or the Netherlands. And you know what you're going to get with the Dutch. That's a good team. They got talent all over the field. I think every single player on the Dutch team, with starters and the bench, would start for Canada. I don't know how many of Canada's players would start for the Netherlands, but this is something we saw at the World Cup in Qatar 4 years ago. The Dutch ran circles around the U.S. Like we weren't even playing the same sport. Louis van Gaal in the postgame just laughed at Greg Berhalter's idiocy. And while I appreciated that he laughed at Greg Berhalter's idiocy, I was the one that had to live with Greg Berhalter's idiocy for 8 years of my life. And that was not a fun place to be. So the Dutch at this World Cup, they've been pretty good. They played one of the best games of the tournament, or most entertaining games of the tournament, in their opener in Dallas. I was there at Jerry World, 2-2 against Japan. Van Dijk got a goal. Somerville got a goal. Then they gave up a late equalizer. That was a very, very fun, very exciting, very entertaining game. Then they played Sweden in Houston, and goodness gracious, they absolutely took their heads off. Holy smokes, 5-1. I watched that game at the Fan Fest at Centennial Park in Atlanta, and you want to talk about the Netherlands and the U.S. at the last World Cup not looking like they were playing the same sport? The Netherlands and Sweden did not look like they were playing the same sport. Sweden was in over their head. They were over their skis. They were out to lunch, whatever you want to call it. They were completely and totally outmatched, outclassed, everything. 5-1 between two European teams at a World Cup is quite shocking. Then they've already locked up a spot in the knockout round game. They get the third game of the group stage against Tunisia. Tunisia was hilarious to me. Tunisia fired their coach after one game. That's incredible. Sort of like if you are in a NBA playoffs, Stanley Cup playoff, first round series, best of 7, you lose game 1 and you fire your coach. Huh? Why would you do that? Tunisia did it. I do wonder if maybe they had long-term designs on having Hervé Renard be their guy for the foreseeable future, and he was available. And now somebody else might have snapped him up when the World Cup was over, so they went ahead and just put a bullet in their coach and brought in Hervé Renard, which is hilarious to fire your coach after one game. Didn't work too well for the Tunisians. They finished bottom of the group, scored an own goal in the 3rd minute against the Netherlands. Netherlands gets the 3-1 win there in Kansas City. So whoever Canada has to play in the round of 16 in Houston is going to be favored in that game. And that's going to be a tough task, tall task for Canada in that game. But I think they've already made history. They are rolling with house money right now. And I think at this point they should, and I think they have taken the mentality of let's just go out and have fun and see what happens. I think you acquitted yourself well in a home World Cup with they're unbeaten. They hadn't lost a game at this World Cup yet. They got a win and not timeout. No, they didn't. I'm talking out of my ass. I apologize. They did indeed. They lost to Switzerland, their most recent game before today. It's been a long 3 weeks, guys. I apologize. No shame in losing to Switzerland. The U.S. lost to Switzerland at home in Nashville last year and were utterly depantsed, courtesy of Matt Turner in goal. I got a Matt Turner stat for you. Let me find this. I had it floating around and I sent it to a few people. I should have had this pulled up, but I didn't know I was going to be talking about Matt Turner today. So, let me get over here. There we go. Hey, it popped right up. How about that? Since the start of 2025, Matt Turner has 6 U.S. men's appearances. He has conceded 16 goals in those appearances. And in those 16 goals in 6 games, and in those 6 games, 1 win, 0 draws, 5 losses. The 1 win, he only played a half against Senegal. Matt Turner, bum, should not play for the U.S. ever again. But Switzerland had a much tougher time with Canada than they did with us because we had Matt Turner in goal that day. Just awful. So the Canadians, as well as they have done for themselves at this tournament, I think the run comes to an end in the round of 16 against either the Netherlands or Morocco. But you know what? They play the games for a reason. Weird things have happened. Nobody thought Morocco was going to the semifinals 4 years ago. I don't think very few people expected them to get out of the group, even some of the most ardent people watching them. But they did it, and they look like potentially a good bet to maybe even get to the quarterfinals again this time. So who knows? That's going to do it for Canada, South Africa. I mean, it was an entertaining game. There was the 1 goal at the end. That's why I had to actually text him somebody. I said, this game feels like somebody scores a goofy goal in like the 93rd minute. It was not goofy, and it was the 91st minute rather than the 93rd minute. But I was close enough. But what we'll do now is we've only been going for 25 minutes, and you can't have a 25-minute show. You got to keep going. There's a lot to talk about. It's the World Cup, for crying out loud. Is talk about the bracket, what we've got coming up the next several days in the knockout rounds, because the knockout rounds are set completely and totally. And this is a mentality that I adore and that I respect. My man here has canceled all professional and personal obligations tomorrow to watch soccer from dawn to dusk. That's me on a college football Saturday. That has almost been me for just about every day at this World Cup. Japan-Brazil is going to be an incredible game. I'm a little bit concerned for Japan because their fans are phenomenal, and I was kind of hoping that they might make a deep run in this tournament after getting to watch them in person in Dallas. I think this might be the end for Japan because it looks like Brazil has started to get it figured out. And that was going to be everybody else's hope, was that Brazil is at a low point. They're at such a low point they had to hire a non-Brazilian to be their coach. That's how low Brazil soccer has sunk right now. Now, it also just reminds you how big of a deal Brazil is internationally, because they went out and hired the best European club manager in history, in Carlo Ancelotti. So, maybe he's not Brazilian, but he knows what he's doing. I think he's won like 10 Champions Leagues, which is insane. And he's done it. He's done it at Madrid, Munich. The dude had Everton punching above their weight in a way that hadn't been done since David Moyes was their head coach. He knows. He's a master. And the hope was that Vinny was going to be too toxic and not be able to get it figured out. But apparently you put Carlo Ancelotti and Vinny Jr. together, and it's the sweetest music you've ever heard in your life. And you put Vinny with any other coach at any other situation, club, international, whatever, and it's a toxic 5-alarm dumpster fire. Brazil looks like they got to figure it out, man. And that's scary. That's scary for everybody else, because Brazil, by their own standards, has underachieved at basically every World Cup since 2002. Quarterfinals in 2006, quarterfinals in 2010, semifinalists in 2014, but we all remember what happened in that semifinal. They lost 7-1 to Brazil, and then they lost 3-0 to the Netherlands in the third-place game. Quarterfinals in 2018, quarterfinals in 2022. So by Brazilian standards, they're underachieving tremendously. That does remind me of the old saying, if all you do is underachieve, are you actually underachieving at all? I think for Brazil, the answer is yes. I mean, anytime they step on the field, they are going to have the most talented roster. Just unless, 99 times out of 100, when they step on the field, they're going to have the most talented roster. They may run into an absurdly stacked team, but all of their players would start for just about any other national team in the world. So for the hope for everybody else in the world was that they weren't going to be able to get it figured out on such short notice. It looks like they've figured it out. But again, this is why they play the games. Japan is very, very fundamentally sound. They're very technical with the ball. They know what they're doing. They have a game plan. They go out and execute it. They don't beat themselves. So it's going to be on Brazil to beat Japan rather than hoping Japan self-destructs the way Scotland did. And I'm sad to see the Scots go, but that writing was on the wall the minute the draw happened. So, knockout round. I'm just going to go in order of the bracket and not necessarily chronological order. It's just easier to do that way so that we can look ahead and see what the next potential matchup is going to be. June 29th in Foxborough, Germany, Paraguay. I'm not high on this German team. They scored 7 goals against Curacao. Hooray. They were life and death against Ivory Coast. And they lost to Ecuador. And I told everybody before this tournament started, on paper, supremely talented team. Games are not played on paper. They're played on the field. They're not built for it. They'll beat Paraguay, but that's just because I don't think Paraguay is particularly good. And they do get Miguel Almiron back after he got sent off in their second game against Turkey for covering his mouth. And that one, that's something I'll talk about real quick. The covering your mouth being an automatic send-off. You can argue the wisdom or the efficiency of covering your mouth in a confrontation being a red card. You can't argue. You cannot argue that it's there in stone, no black and white, no gray, no gray, all black and white. If you are in a confrontation and you cover your mouth, you are done. Game, set, match, crystal clear. Sign the dotted line. Good day, sir. You stole fizzy lifty drinks. You get nothing. So, and I don't care. Oh, they didn't give the players enough time to acclimate. Well, pray tell, what would you be saying that you need to cover your mouth so that the cameras don't pick it up? This happened in a year. I don't know which European club game it was, but there were some things that had the referee seen what was said or heard what was said, it's going to be a red card for foul and abusive language. I mean, you're not going over here like this and go, hey, man, you're playing great, man. And I know everybody's mad at each other right now, but you're playing great, and I hope you guys go far in this tournament. That's not what you're doing. You're going over there to say ridiculous, crazy things, and you're covering your mouth so that the cameras can't pick it up and suspend you after the fact. That's what you're doing, plain and simple. So it should not be that hard to, when they say, don't do this or it's a red card, to not do it. This is not, you go in for a tackle and your studs catch the guy in the calf and you miss the ball. Not the same thing. This is crystal clear. Don't do this or you will be sent off. I'm going to do it anyway. Goodbye. So you can argue about the wisdom of it or the how effective it's going to be of it, but you cannot argue that there's gray area and that, it was an incorrect send-off of Miguel Almiron in that Paraguay-Turkey game. That being said, I don't think getting Miguel Almiron back is going to be much help to Paraguay against Germany. Germany's going to win this game pretty comfortably. June 30th, France v. Sweden in New York. That's going to be a bloodbath. The Swedes stood no chance against the Dutch and were absolutely thrown out of a window. And France is awesome, 9 points out of 9. They've steamrolled everybody through the group stage. That's going to continue. That's going to be a multi-goal win for France over Sweden. No question about it. So that sets up on 4th of July in Philadelphia, France v. Germany. End of the road for the Germans. France is going to. They're not going to put Germany's head on a pike, but they're going to comprehensively beat the Germans. This is, again, I don't think the Germans were making a deep run in this tournament. They won their group, and their coach complained about everything the entire time he was here. So I'm going to be very happy to see them go. So we've already talked about Canada's already beaten South Africa. I've already sort of given you the preview of Netherlands, Morocco. I have no idea who wins that game. That's going to be an absolute blockbuster tomorrow, and that's going to be down in Mexico. It looks like Guadalupe. Was that Guadalajara or is that Monterrey? I think that's Monterrey because Guadalajara is in Jalisco. So Netherlands, Morocco. Whoever wins that game is going to beat Canada and get to the quarterfinals. But I have no idea who wins this game between Netherlands and Morocco. That one has penalties written all over it. Then on July 2nd, you get Portugal and Croatia in Toronto. I have no idea who wins this game. Portugal has not been impressive. 2 draws and a win, and their win was against Uzbekistan. Ronaldo only got the 2 goals because everybody else was showing him up, and he couldn't live with that. And so he went out and scored 2 goals against Uzbekistan to, I guess, remind everybody that he's awesome. But he was invisible against Congo. He was invisible against Colombia. So the Portuguese, man, I don't like, again, Portugal's always got an incredibly talented team. And they're never able to put it all together. I mean, they went to the semifinals in 2006, and then they won the Euros in 2016. But outside of that, they always lose the first knockout round. So, Croatia, on the other hand, is nothing but team. And Luka Modric is 100 years old and still playing like he's 25, which is incredible. They had a good win over Ghana yesterday. That was a fun watch in the press box. Back and forth game that was. Croatia, they took a heavy defeat to England to start the tournament and have bounced back nicely with wins over Panama and Ghana. This one might end up going extra time, but I think the longer the game goes, the more it favors Croatia. Croatia is going to beat Portugal, I think. And just because Portugal is that they're too dysfunctional. As long as Ronaldo's in that team, they're never going to be able to play like a team. So that sets up a matchup against the winner of Spain and Austria. Look, I've been high on Spain since before the tournament. I was high on them after they beat Saudi Arabia. They, I think, have underwhelmed a little bit at this tournament. They're still very talented. They didn't look good in their draw with Cape Verde. They didn't look all that great in their win against Uruguay. That probably had a lot more to do with Uruguay going out there to just beat the shit out of them than anything else. And I thought Ismail Elfat, the American referee, had a fantastic game. That was going to be a nightmare game to have to referee, and he went out there and ran it. And when there were dust-ups, he got right in the middle and physically moved people. And great red card at the end of the game. I would have given the dude a second red card just for shits and giggles after he showed his ass trying to go fight his own bench and then trying to go fight the Spanish bench and then trying to fight the match commissioner and then trying to fight the TV camera operator. And then, I was just like, bro, you put your studs into the dude's knee. Get out. You've been begging for that red card for 45 minutes. So Spain's performance against Congo against Cape Verde left a lot to be desired. They absolutely demolished and ripped apart the Saudis, but all the PIF money in the world doesn't mean you have a good national team. And then they won against Uruguay, and it was an ugly game, but I think that probably has more to do with Uruguay than it did with Spain. They're going to beat Austria. Austria got through. I mean, I didn't get to watch the game because I was stuck on train platforms and overpacked trains like I was in a Seinfeld episode. But Algeria, Austria last night was 35 different kinds of wacky. Holy smokes. Back and forth. Austria scores. Algeria ties it up. Austria scores again. Algeria ties it up. Algeria takes the lead in stoppage time. And that's got it set up to where Iran goes through to the knockout rounds. Because the only result that keeps Iran out is an Austria-Algeria draw. Well, that was like the 93rd minute that Algeria scores to take the lead. And Austria comes right back down in the 95th minute and equalizes. Last kick of the game. Incredible. That's a game I wished I could have covered in person. And Kansas City is one of the places I can go, but I was in Atlanta. I can stay for free in Atlanta. I can't do that anywhere else. That was incredible. I hate that I can get to watch that. I hate that I didn't get to be there in person. So Austria is going to be coming off this huge, huge high. They're already not as good of a team as Spain. Spain is going to, I think, fairly comprehensively beat Austria. That sets up Spain, Croatia, July 6th in Arlington. That is a coin flip game to me. Croatia at these tournaments is just unkillable, man. I don't know what it is. They're punching well above their weight. They've only been their own national team since the mid-90s, and they've already been to 3 World Cup semifinals. 98, 18, 22. I mean, you talk about generational run. I think Spain probably beats them, but it would not shock me if Croatia, if Spain, Croatia has penalties written all over it. That's a game that will probably go to penalties, and anything can happen in penalties. Now, Croatia tends to be pretty good at them. Spain does not. Spain, every time they go out at the World Cup, they go out on penalties. That's how they went out in Qatar. That's how they went out in Russia. So, then the big one, July the 1st, United States against Bosnia and Herzegovina. I'm trying to use head over heart here. You guys saw the show I did the other night with after they lost to, who did they lose to? Turkey. And the way they lost that game is what concerns me more than the fact that they lost it. The counterpoint, yes, they lost the game. It was a soul-sucking last-minute, last kick of the game loss when you were so close to getting 7 points, or getting a point for a total of 7 points, I should say. And you gave up, I don't know what Matt Turner was doing. I don't know what the defenders were doing, why you're playing with the ball in your own box. I don't know. And you were punished by a team with a lot of quality that had already been eliminated. So the counter argument to that is you sat everybody that mattered, 4 guys on yellows. You made 9 changes. Why Matt Turner for Matt Freese? Why Matt Freese for Matt Turner was one of those changes? I don't know. But you made a lot of changes. And you took an early lead. You battled back from a deficit. You battled through adversity and ultimately came up just a little bit short. And you're going to have your guys back for Bosnia and Herzegovina. So head tells me this is a game the United States should win. Heart is all over the place. And Bosnia, with everybody's favorite player, thug number 5, whose name escapes me. He's like an extra from it was like when in Arrested Development, when Tobias thinks he's an actor and tries to go to prison to learn how to play the role of frightened inmate number 3. That's dude for Bosnia and Herzegovina, thug number 5. They, at this tournament, this is only their second World Cup appearance, if I'm not mistaken. They got a 1-1 draw with Canada, but that was a game where Canada should have won. From start to finish, Canada was the better team, and they were just shockingly wasteful with a lot of really good chances. Then they played Switzerland and got their heads taken off 4-1. And what? That's I don't remember that game. Why don't I remember that game? I must have been in a stadium somewhere. Because that one was 0-0. The first goal, 74th minute, 84th minute, 90th minute. Bosnia gets one in the 93rd minute. Switzerland gets one in the 97th minute on a penalty. 5 goals in the last 15 minutes of the game after being 0-0 is crazy. Then they go out and they beat Qatar 3-1. So of all the potential teams you could have played in the round of 32, but you look at Bosnia hasn't won a game in 90 minutes. Their game against Qatar was it. That's the only game they've won in 90 minutes this year. You have to go back to November to a World Cup qualifier against Romania to find a game where they've won in 90 minutes. They've been living on the edge, Bosnia. They got into the playoff. They beat Wales on penalties. Then they beat Italy on penalties. Then they got a friendly draw with Macedonia, a 1-1 draw with Panama in St. Louis, 1-1 draw with Canada, like I said, 4-1. So they're not really good at winning, but they're really tough to beat. So, again, I wonder if this maybe plays out like the Australia game, where they're going to be content. The opposition is going to be content to sit back and soak up a lot of pressure and try to hit you on the counter. And the book on the U.S. team for a long time has been just let them have possession because they don't know what to do with it and they can't break down teams in a low block. So if that's what Bosnia is going to do, I feel better about it today than I would have a month ago. We saw what they did to Paraguay. We saw what they did to Australia and what the backups did against Turkey. They lost, yes, and I didn't like that, no, but they went out and competed, and it was a reasonably entertaining game. It was not ugly. They were not lacking in chances. That's one thing that has been really impressive about this team. Basically, from the Senegal game all the way till now, is they've been really good at creating chances. Now they just got to figure out how to put them in the net. So ultimately, I think the U.S. wins, but I won't feel good about that until the full-time whistle blows and we have more goals on the board than they do. So the U.S., if they get past Bosnia, they go back to Seattle to play the winner of Belgium and Senegal. I don't want to play Belgium. I want to play Senegal. I know that we just beat Senegal. And I know that they've been a little bit underwhelming at this tournament. So that's a matchup that I would prefer. I also know that not only did we get our heads taken off by Belgium this year in Atlanta, I know because I was there, that historically we struggle to beat Belgium. They've beaten us. They beat us in 26. They beat us in 14. They beat us in 13. They beat us in 11. And they have not been the best at this tournament either. But they've got an absurdly talented team. They have not actually lost a game in I don't know how long. Looking at their Wikipedia page, it only goes back to September of 2025. They haven't lost a game in that time. That includes coming to Atlanta and absolutely punting our head right over the moon after they took it off. But at this tournament, they have been a little bit underwhelming. They have not really fired. They got a 1-1 draw with Egypt. They got and I think the only goal they scored was an own goal. They 0-0 with Iran and LA, and that was actually a very exciting, very entertaining back-and-forth game. And then they beat up on the comedy fall guys, New Zealand. 28-minute, 50, 66, 86, 94. and the dude Elijah Just. That's the only dude for New Zealand who came to play at this tournament. But 5-1 after 2 draws. I would prefer to play Senegal. I don't want to play Belgium. I think if you play Belgium in the round of 16, that's the end of the road. I think if you play Senegal, you have a much better chance of getting through. Senegal, not great. Now, they were in a tough group. I understand they were in a tough group. They had to play France, tough task, lost 3-1. They had to play Norway, tough task, lost 3-2. Then they played Iraq, and they gutted them, 5-0. They didn't get run out of the building in either of those 2 games against France and Norway. I would rather play Senegal because I know we can beat them because we just did it. I don't know that we can beat Belgium because I don't think in my lifetime it's happened. Certainly not since I've been watching the team religiously since 2011. They lost in Brussels, they lost in Cleveland, they lost in Brazil, and they lost in Atlanta. I guess the counter argument to that could be that I didn't expect them, they were playing like ass until the camp right before this tournament started. And I said, I don't know that we can expect them to just flip the switch and all of a sudden be awesome. And they somehow flipped the switch and have been very, very good. I can't quite get to awesome because they lost to Turkey, but they've been really, really, really good. Maybe we can just expect them to flip the switch and be ready to go when they play Belgium. Maybe we can't. I don't know. As far as Belgium v. Senegal, how that game is going to look, I don't know. That anything could happen in that game. I have no idea what to predict or what to tell you for that game. That game could go any number of ways. I'm going to be pulling for Senegal because I would rather play Senegal because we just beat them. Then you move to June 29th in Houston. We already talked about Brazil and Japan. I think Japan's in trouble. I think Brazil's got it figured out, and they're rolling now. Then you get Ivory Coast and Norway. Ivory Coast was in the group with Germany, Curacao, and Ecuador. They looked solid. They looked solid in the warm-ups before the tournament. They've looked solid at this tournament. They went toe-to-toe with the Germans. Didn't beat Curacao by as much as I thought they should have. They got a last-minute winner against Ecuador. And that's the thing. The margins in these games are so fine, which is why I keep stressing for the U.S., when you get your chances, you have to put them away because you don't have the breathing room in the World Cup that you do when you play in the Gold Cup. You need to put your chances away. Ecuador had chances against Ivory Coast. They didn't put them away. They lost 1-0. Ivory Coast had a couple of chances against Germany. Didn't put them all away. They lost 2-1. So, Ivory Coast against Norway, I think favors Norway. I was a little bit miffed with the Norwegians for sitting their entire roster against the French with a chance to top the group. It was not the same situation as the U.S. and Turkey, where we had already secured the top spot. Norway could still have gone out and won the group, and that meant they would have played Sweden in the next round. Instead, they rested everybody. They lost comprehensively, and now they're playing who I think is a tougher opponent in the Ivory Coast. I still think Norway gets it done because they do have one of the best goal scorers in the world, and that would set up Brazil v. Norway in New York on July the 5th. I don't know what to expect out of that game. So then we move to June 30th at Azteca, Mexico v. Ecuador. Ecuador gets through by the skin of their teeth. Mexico has looked very good this tournament, 9 points out of 9. You're at Azteca, you're at altitude. That's a game that I think Mexico is going to win. Ecuador might have something to say about it, but they were life and death in this group stage. They lost to Ivory Coast. They got a draw with Curacao, and then Germany had already locked up the top spot in the group, so they went out and beat Germany, but that was a back-and-forth game that they won in real late, the last 10 minutes of the game. So Mexico's going to need to be on their A game, but if Mexico wins, they get another game at Azteca on July the 5th, and that figures to be against England because on July the 1st, England plays Congo in Atlanta. And as good as Congo looked against Uzbekistan last night, England is not Uzbekistan. And if England cannot beat the Congo in the World Cup round of 32, they might as well just shut their whole program down. I mean, you've got everybody on that team playing in the Premier League with the exception of Harry Kane, and that's because he plays for Bayern Munich. That's a game England should win comfortably and convincingly. And Mexico v. England at Azteca in Mexico City on July the 5th is going to be a great game. That's going to be fascinating. And that will be Mexico's last. That will be the last game in Mexico because, like I said, everything from the quarterfinals on is in the United States. So then you move down July the 3rd in Miami, Argentina against Cape Verde. Cape Verde has been a great story. They're unbeaten so far at this tournament. 3 draws in 3 games. They get to the knockout round as the second-place team in a group with Uruguay and Spain and Saudi Arabia. And they finished ahead of Uruguay and Saudi Arabia. This is where the road ends here. Argentina is going to annihilate them. Lionel Messi has scored 7 goals at this World Cup. He's 40 years old. Are you kidding me? He's going to score a 10-minute hat trick against Cape Verde. I know this sounds like I'm being disrespectful of Cape Verde. I'm not. Like I said, they're an incredible story, and they've been very difficult to play against. But this is like Argentina's operating at another level right now. I mean, they are playing insanely good. I mean, it's not insane to suggest that Messi's going to have a 10-minute hat trick because Dembele for France had a 30-minute hat trick against Norway the other day. And this game's in Miami. That's going to be 95% my Argentina fans. So pencil that one in. Thank you, Cape Verde. Your run is over. Australia, Egypt in Dallas. I have no idea what to expect out of this game. That's going to be an atrocity to watch. That is going to be an ugly, awful soccer game to watch. And I think whoever uglies it up and is more physical will win that game. And I think that's the Aussies. We saw what they did against Turkey. We saw what they did against the U.S. And then we saw their game. Well, I don't know how many of us saw their game against Paraguay because it was the same time as the U.S. game against Turkey. I think Australia is going to beat Egypt. This is, I think, Egypt's first time in the knockout rounds. They've been, that whole group with Belgium, Egypt, New Zealand, and Iran was a very strange group. I mean, it was a very strange group when the draw happened, and it was a very strange group from start to finish, game to game. 1-1 draw with Belgium, a 3-1 win over New Zealand, and a 1-1 draw with Iran. And, it's just, there's a lot of parity, I guess you could say. But I think this game, Australia-Egypt on July 3rd, comes down to who can ugly it up more. I think that's Australia. So then you get July 7th in Atlanta, Argentina against Australia. Argentina beats Australia in a repeat of the round of 16 from 4 years ago in Qatar. July 2nd, Switzerland v. Algeria in Vancouver. I think I'll pick Switzerland. The Algeria-Austria game was a lot of fun. The Algerians really didn't stand a chance against Argentina. They beat Jordan. I can't lie. I didn't watch that game. I think that's the one where we did a live stream for the first 45 minutes. I don't remember. It's been a long 3 weeks. I'll pick Switzerland against Algeria. July 3rd, Colombia, Ghana in Kansas City. Colombia. They have not been as impressive at this tournament as I thought. I figured that coming into the tournament, they were one of 5 teams that I thought could win it. They haven't really impressed me all that much. They did beat Uzbekistan. They did beat Congo. They did get a draw with Portugal. They topped the group. I just don't think Ghana has the skill or the quality to hang with them. But Ghana, they had clean sheets their first 2 games. They're tough to score against, and it took some special goals from Croatia to get past Ghana. And Ghana didn't throw in the towel in that game either. Again, the margins in these games are so fine, with certain exceptions. But I think Colombia gets Ghana, and that sets up Colombia, Switzerland, and Vancouver. I'm going to pick Colombia in that game just because I think they can. I thought they could win the tournament before it started, and I'm going to stick with it. So that's your round of 32 and potential round of 16 matchup. So, and you could have France v. Germany. That'll be a blockbuster. Portugal against Spain, perhaps. That'll be a blockbuster, but I think Croatia beats Portugal. You could have, you're looking at the U.S. path, you theoretically would have to beat Belgium, Spain, France, Belgium to get to the round of, have to beat Bosnia to get to the round of 16. Then you would have to beat Belgium to get to the quarterfinals. Then you would have to beat Spain to get to the semifinals. You get to the semifinals, you're going to have to play France. I don't think they're going to beat France. I don't think they would beat Spain either. But I don't know. Spain's not as impressive as I thought they would be. Then England against Mexico and Mexico City would be incredible. Winner of that game would more than likely play Brazil in Miami. That would be incredible. Mexico v. Brazil is always a very fun game. So I'm kind of rooting for that one. And then you could have Argentina v. Colombia in the quarterfinals in Kansas City. That would be amazing. Argentina, when everybody does what they're supposed to do, you're going to have a Brazil v. Argentina World Cup semifinal in Atlanta on July the 15th. I think the city might shut down that day. That would be phenomenal. Has Brazil ever played Argentina at a World Cup? I don't know that they have. I can't think of a time. Maybe in the 70s or perhaps the 60s. But a Brazil v. Argentina would be, that game, Brazil-Argentina World Cup semifinal, that's going to put up Super Bowl numbers. US v. France in a semifinal at the World Cup is going to put up Super Bowl numbers. It's like if sky's the limit here, man. And if you get the biggest and best teams and the biggest and best stars and the U.S. all making deep runs at this tournament, the TV ratings are going to be through the roof. The discourse is going to be through the roof. And soccer will never have a better chance to make it in this country. And what making it looks like, I don't quite know, but we'll never have a better opportunity than that. All right, that's enough ramblage for the day. Now that I'm back here in the 662, you got some 662 ramblage for everybody out there. That is going to do it for me today. Like I said, I'm glad I got to do this while the sun is still up and it's not 1 o'clock in the morning and I'm going to bed and having to get up for work tomorrow. I do have to get up and go to work tomorrow, but I'll be able to get to bed at a reasonable hour. So thank you everybody for tuning in and watching. Appreciate it. Again, if you're watching, please make sure you like the video, comment on the video, and subscribe to the Bluff City Media YouTube channel. LDoc93 on Twitter, Bluff City Media on Twitter, Bluff City_media on Twitter, 901 Soccer Pod on Twitter, Bluff City Media on Facebook, 901 Soccer on Facebook. Thank you everybody for watching, and we'll probably try to do one of these tomorrow. I'm not traveling tomorrow. I'll be at home. So we'll probably try to do another one of these tomorrow to break down some knockout round games. And we will see you then.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the 901 Soccer Podcast. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and a comment wherever you download your podcasts. Also, like and subscribe to the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.